ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. So welcome to our Saturday evening session these days, but we'll come back to our morning timings after a little while. We will today continue on chapter 5. We will finish chapter 5 today, verses 21 to 29. We will cover those verses today. So let us continue on this chapter. As we know, this chapter started with a question from Arjun. Arjun said that, let me know what is the difference between karma sannyas and karma yoga, and tell me one thing definitive which is good for me and which will lead to my well-being. And that is how this chapter started. So Krishna is expanding on this chapter, saying that both paths lead to the same destination. However, Karma Yoga is easier to perform because you can live in the world and then continue to do your, spiritual advancement by certain techniques. And those techniques he has been explaining. Now, we will go on verse number 21 now. The very first word of this verse, bias purse. So we will understand that in little detail. बाहर के विषयों में आसक्ति रहित अंतःकरण वाला साधक आत्मा में स्थित जो ध्यान जनित सात्विक आनंद है उसको प्राप्त होता है. तदंतर वह सच्चिदानंद घन पर ब्रह्म परमात्मा के ध्यान रूप योग में अभिन्न भाव से स्थित पुरुष अक्षय आनंद का अनुभव करता है. Now, explaining on the same theme, Lord Krishna is saying that बाह्य विषयों को बाहरी त्याग दो. Now, this is the word which he has used, बाह्य स्पर्श. We have earlier understood 2-3 other words. One was the matra स्पर्श. बाह्य स्पर्श and matra स्पर्श are more or less identical. Matra स्पर्श means that when you get some pleasure due to your interaction with the outside world through your sense organs. So this is the sense organs working with the outside world that gives you the pleasure. And this is entirely the same thing as Bahya Spars, that our sense organs are designed to look outwards, whether it is the hearing or seeing or smelling or tasting or touching. All these are looking outward. For example, we hear very, very nice music or song or something, and then it gives us pleasure. So there is the Bahya Spars, that outside world is interacting with your sense organs and that is giving you the pleasure. Similarly, you look at a beautiful mountain or beautiful river or a beautiful person. When you look at these people, those sense organs touch with that outside world gives you a sort of pleasure. Similarly, other sense organs give you the pleasure with their interaction with the outside world. So that is called Bahya Spars. That is also Matra Spars. There's another word which has been used, which we'll come to in the next verse. So he has used these words to explain that there is a difference between Bahya Spars and Antar Spars. Antar Spars is the one when we look inwards, when we turn our sense organs and mind inward. And Bahya Spars is that when we keep looking for pleasure outside. As we were just talking, that pleasure by traveling here, or pleasure by buying certain items, or pleasure by looking at a film or some individual, or some building. So these are bias purse pleasures. So these bias purse pleasures, he is saying that we should leave them outside. उनमें आसक्ति नहीं होनी चाहिए. इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि आप उस प्लेजर को देखना बंद कर दें. You continue with your sense organs as they behave, but don't get attached to that. Whether it comes or not, it should not matter. If it comes, it's fine. Doesn't come, doesn't matter. So the approach should be that it should not give you pain or pleasure. You should look at the outside world as it is conducting itself in its own way. Like if you analyze the history of mankind, you will always, even during the time of Mahabharata and Ramayana, we have seen people who were evil. Now, why Rama had thousands of years back, why Rama had to go to, 14 years of Vas in Vanvas? Why? Because there were certain forces which acted against that, and they did not want him to take over the kingdom. Similarly, in Mahabharata, we have many, many episodes where a lot of evil people have behaved. Exactly the same way, we have a lot of evil people behaving today. And even in our lifetime, 50 years ago, we have seen many evils which prevailed in this world. So, this fight of evil and good will continue in this world. We need not get unnecessarily engaged and derive pain and pleasure out of it. We should take it as given that this is how the world is, this is how the world lives. We don't have to attach ourselves with it. This is what he's saying, that बाह्य स्पर्श जो हैं उन बाह्य के विषयों को बाहर ही छोड़ दो, उनको छोड़ दो बाहर. और अंतःकरण, look inward, look inside, and then you will get an immense spiritual pleasure. That pleasure will connect you to Brahman, to the Almighty, to the Supreme, and that will give you an infinite pleasure. That is what he's saying. Now, here the word he has used it, Sukham she Mashunte, that kind of pleasure which will not diminish at all, which will remain eternal all the time. And that pleasure is possible when it is possible, Brahma Yog Yuktatma, when your inner self is connected with the Brahman. So the inner self should be connected to the Brahma, to Paramatma, and the outside sense organs, they should just see the world and do not get attached to them. If we start getting attached to the world outside, then there is infinite attachment, because this world has so many attractions, so many temptations, that you will never be able to get out of it. I have done individual study of certain people, and I have seen how they have remain attached while telling, okay, after 2 years I'll leave all this and come back to spiritual life. It never happens, because after one attraction another attraction comes. If I have a son, then I would like that son or daughter to be well educated, then I would like him or her to get well employed, then I would like them to get married, then they should have children, and then the children should be educated again, and then they should be employed and they should be married. So this is an infinite cycle which continues. This applies in every field of life. Even if you apply to the wealth, then okay, I should have a bicycle, and then you should have a motorbike, and after motorbike I should have a car, and after car I should have at least two cars, and then I should have a bigger car, and then I should have an aircraft, and maybe a helicopter, or God knows what. So this is an infinite cycle which continues in this world. So we should not get attached to that. That's what he's saying, that बाह्य स्पर्श जो है वो उसमें इन्वॉल्व नहीं होना है हमको. उससे हमें मुक्त रहना है। उसको बाहर ही देख लीजिए, उसको छोड़ दीजिए। अटैच किससे होना है? आत्मा को ब्रह्म से या परमात्मा से अटैच होना है, एंड दैट विल गिव यू एन इनफाइनाइट प्लेजर इन लाइफ, विच इज एक्चुअली अनंत, विच इज विदाउट एनी क्षय, जिसका क्षय होता ही नहीं है। दैट इज व्हाट ही इज सेइंग, दैट यू गेट a kind of infinite pleasure once you are attached, your inner self is attached to Paramatma, the Atma and Paramatma का जब योग हो जाता है, he has used the verb here, Brahma Yog Yuktatma, that is the word he has used here, which is basically the same thing. And then we get this infinite pleasure. So this is a very practical, suggestion which has been given by him, that बाह्य भोगों को बाहर छोड़ दो, आत्मा को परमात्मा से मिलाओ, and then you will get a pleasure which is infinite, and you will not be attracted by the worldly pleasures. Then in the verse number 22, he has again used a similar word in Sanskrit. I'll come to that. जो ये इंद्रिय और विषयों के संयोग से उत्पन्न होने वाले भोग हैं, इंद्रिय और विषयों के संयोग से उत्पन्न होने वाले जो भोग हैं, यद्यपि विषयी पुरुषों को बड़े सुखरूप दिखाई देते हैं, लेकिन ये अंत में दुख ही देने वाले होते हैं, क्योंकि ये आदि और अंत वाले हैं, अनित्य हैं, ये शुरू होते हैं और ये खत्म हो जाते हैं। इसलिए बुद्धिमान विवेकी पुरुष इन चीजों में नहीं रमता। So this is what Lord Krishna has said. Now he has explained it further. The word, Sanskrit word which he has used is sansparsja. Sansparsja. The first word was bahyaspars, here sansparsja. Now sansparsja basically means that इंद्रियों के और विषयों के संयोग से जो सुख उत्पन्न होता है, जो सुख उत्पन्न होता है, जैसे आपने बहुत टेस्टी चीज खाई, तो वो एक सुख आपको लगा कि मैंने बहुत अच्छा खाना आज इस रेस्टोरेंट में बैठ के खाया, बड़ा टेस्टी खाना था, और वो सुख आपको लगा। आपने किसी व्यक्ति को टच किया और आपको बहुत उससे अच्छा सुख महसूस हुआ, तो आपको लगा कि हाँ, ये बहुत सुख महसूस होता है। तो इंद्रियों के और विषयों का। नाउ the word Visay actually originates from Vish. Vish means poison, and Vishay means poisonous, something like poison. So all the Vishay, जिनके because of those Vishay, the sense organs get involved into those pleasures. Now let me give the distinction between the two, what is Vishay and what is sense organ. Now we have a sense organ called sense of hearing, that is our ear. That is the sense, ear. Vishay is the desire to hear something beautiful, something which is melodious, which is nice, which I like. Now that desire to hear is Vishay. Now that desire originates with mind and the mind's combination with the outside world. So the outside world and the mind, they collaborate and they create a desire, and that desire is called Vishay, which is ultimately in collaboration with our sense organs, create sensation in our body. That sensation is pleasurable sensation, and that is how this whole thing works. That sensation which is created with the help of outside objects through our sense organs is the root cause of these problems. And Lord Krishna is saying here that जो संसार में जो व्यक्ति व्याप्त हैं, जो संसार में जो व्यक्ति लीन हैं, उन लोगों को इस तरह के विषय और इंद्रियों का जो संयोग से जो सुख पैदा होता है, वो उनको अच्छा लगता है, वो उसमें सुखी महसूस करते हैं। लेकिन वो कह रहे हैं कि दिस सुख इज नॉट गुड बिकॉज दिस हैज बिगिनिंग एंड एंड. Now, beginning and end of every sukh. For example, you want to become rich. Now, if we talk about a very rich person, for example, like Ambani, Mukesh Ambani. Now, if you personally go and ask him, he must have completely fed up with the wealth. He wants to get out of it, but you cannot get out of it because the empire which has been created, if it starts falling down, that it becomes a source of tremendous pain, and it cannot stay at the same place all the time because the rule of law is that things will change in the world. They will change either towards higher or the lower side. So it cannot stay static. Either he has to grow or he has to decline. These are the only options. And the option of declining is not liked by anybody. So people want to grow all the time. And that growth gives pleasure for a while, and after that it becomes, very, very painful. I give you an example. When I was in Europe, there used to be a competition of kissing, in particularly in Poland. Now, those people who were involved, the kiss is a beautiful, sensation which you get out of, you know, mm, the the sense organs, and the two people come together and they kiss. But in the competition, they used to kiss for hours and hours, and after that process is over, they used to feel terrible. They will feel that they will never do this again. Now, that is the kind of what you call uh, disenchantment which happens after that pleasure. It starts with pleasure, but when you continue with that, it converts into pain, it converts into distress. So, every pleasure which you get in the outside world has a beginning and an end, and it comes to an end, and after it gives a negative actually output. It's exactly the way as we talk in economics, the law of diminishing return. It diminishes, 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 it goes down to zero, and then it starts becoming negative, negative, negative. Like you eat food, first few, more so the first few spoons of your food will give you pleasure, and after that the pleasure start diminishing. Once your stomach is full, then you don't want to eat, and if you continue to eat, you will vomit, and it will become a cause of pain. So this is what he's saying, that in this world, whatever pleasure you get with the combination of sense organs and the outside world, they have beginning and they have an end. They are anitya. वो आदि अंत वाले हैं, अनित्य हैं, और बुद्धिमान पुरुष इसलिए उनमें रमता नहीं है. The people who have wisdom, who are wise, they are not actually attracted by these kind of pleasures because they know they will come to an end after a while and it will get converted into a distress. So this is what he is saying here. The word here again, sansparsja, which has been used, it is exactly in the same sense as bahya spars in the previous verse, or matra spars somewhere else, which we have studied, I think, in chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita. So these are detailed explanations that why we should not get involved or attached to the pleasures of the outside world. That pleasure is starting with something, and then it reaches its peak, and then it diminishes, and it finishes, it becomes negative. So this is anitya. That is what he says. Tesu ramte buddha. इन चीजों में बुद्धिमान पुरुष रमते नहीं है. कौनते न तेसु रमते बुध. कि हे कौनते, हे अर्जुन, बुद्धिमान पुरुष इन चीजों में नहीं रमते हैं. So this is what he's saying, that we don't have to get attached to the outside, the pleasures which are coming from our senses due to combination or interaction with the outside world. Then the verse number 23, जो साधक इस मनुष्य शरीर में शरीर का नाश होने से पहले काम और क्रोध से उत्पन्न हुए वेग को सहन करने में समर्थ हो जाता है, वह पुरुष योगी है और वही सुखी है. काम और क्रोध का वेग. नाउ पतंजलि हैज यूज्ड चित्त वृत्ति निरोध. ये वृत्तियां, चित्त की वृत्तियां जो आती हैं वो खत्म होने. हियर ही हैज यूज्ड, लॉर्ड कृष्णा हैज यूज्ड काम और क्रोध का वेग. कामो क्रोधो तेम वेगम च युक्त से युक्त है. तो काम और क्रोध का वेग कैसे? काम का मतलब इच्छाओं का. काम मीन्स डिजायर्स. ये डिजायर्स आपको अंदर से विचलित नहीं करें. और क्रोध जब होता है, जब आपकी इच्छाएं पूरी नहीं होती, एंड दैट is also another vague, another halchal inside which happens. So all these movements inside the human body because of desires and non-fulfillment of desires, which happens if we are able to rise beyond this before our death. This is what it says. शरीर का नाश होने से पहले, before the body is destroyed, if we are able to overcome that, then the person is called yogi. That is, the person is yukta. Se yukta hai. Se yukta means that person is yogi. That person is already one with the Almighty. That is the meaning here. So, Kam and Krodh are the practical side of the Bahya Spars. Because Bahya Spars starts with Kam, and if the desired results do not come out, it gives you the Krodh. So it gives you anger if the desires are not fulfilled. So all these things, he is giving you a very practical example that why Bahya Spars should be controlled. Firstly, because whatever pleasure you get out of Bahya Spars, they are transient, they are anitya, they are shanik, they do not last long, they will come to an end. That is first reason which he has explained in the verse number 22. And now he is saying that because of that, we get involved into Kam and Krodh, the cycle of Kam and Krodh, and that cycle should be overcome in order to overcome the process of Bahya Spars. So there's nothing wrong in Bahya Spars. The wrong thing is attachment to the Bahya Spars. That when you get attached to the pleasure of the sense organs with the outside world, interaction with the outside world, that is the root cause. So this is what he has explained here in these 3 verses, that we should keep the outside, the sensations arising out of outside world and their interaction with our sense organs, they should be kept aside, and we should not get attached to those sensations. Let them take their place, but we are stable inside, and we are yukt, or we are one with the Almighty, and then you will get an eternal pleasure which is everlasting, which is not reduced or which is not getting diminished with time or with place. So this is what he is saying in verse number 23. Now verse number 24. जो पुरुष अंतरात्मा में ही सुख वाला है, आत्मा में ही रमण करने वाला है और आत्मा में ही ज्ञान वाला है, वह सच्चिदानंद घन पर ब्रह्म परमात्मा के साथ एक ही भाव को प्राप्त सांख्य योगी शांत ब्रह्म को प्राप्त होता है. Now he has used this word Atma 3 times here. That अंतर आत्मा में ही सुख वाला है, आत्मा में ही रमण करने वाला है और आत्मा में ही ज्ञान वाला है. Now how do we do that? This is possible only when we actually transform our sense organs looking inward. Whenever we think of outside world, uh, we see it as, what you call a place where we are tempted. This should be looked as temptation, and we have to get out of that temptation, because the temptation will lead us to delusion, and then it will give us the what you call pain. Like you go to casino is a temptation that you might earn a lot of money out of it, but ultimately every person who goes to casino, he is a loser and he comes out with pain. This world is exactly the same way. It's like a casino. Wherever you go here, it looks very tempting, it looks very attractive, but ultimately you end up with pain. So, this is what he's saying here, that don't look outside, start looking inside. Now, this is a further explanation of the same process, that antaratma mein raman karne wala, that you are thinking inside, you are meditating on your own self, you are thinking about your own self. Who am I? What am I supposed to do? That kind of meditative thought should come in the mind of everybody. Then you will start getting pleasure from inside. That process will start, and then that knowledge will give you infinite pleasure. So this is what he's saying, that don't look outside, come inside. The meaning of all these verses is centered on one theme, that don't look for pleasure in the outside world, don't get attached to the outside world, but try to look inward. Why we should not get attached to outside world? Because whatever pleasure you get there, they are transient. They last for a while, and they get converted into pain after a little while. And therefore the wise people do not get attached to that. And then he's saying that yes, the people who are spiritual, people who want to get eternal pleasure in life, then they have to become inward looking. They should look inward, and they should get pleasure from their own self. When you get to know yourself, then you will get an infinite pleasure, which will be everlasting, which will be, you know, uh, which will give you complete peace. The word they have used here is say yogi brahma nirvanam. Now, it was thought at some stage that the word nirvana has been used by Buddha for the first time, which is not true. You can see here in Bhagavad Gita, which was written several thousand years before the birth of Buddha, he has used the word say yogi brahma nirvanam. कि वह yogi, nirvanam means that you get completely lost into Brahma. Your own existence is completely destroyed, and you become part of Brahma. That is Brahma Nirvana. So ऐसा योगी जो ब्रह्म के अंदर लय हो गया है, ब्रह्म के अंदर विलुप्त हो गया है, उस योगी को अनंत सुख मिलता है। उसको सुख ऐसा मिलता है जिसकी कोई सीमा नहीं होती, उसका कोई क्षय नहीं होता, और उसकी कोई अवधि नहीं होती। हमेशा वो सुख उसको मिलता रहता है। दिस इज व्हाट ही इज सेइंग हियर। सो ब्रह्म भूतो अधिगच्छति, देन द पर्सन इज already one with the Almighty. So this is what verse number 24 says. It continues on the same theme. Then 25, जिनके सब पाप नष्ट हो गए हैं, जिनके सब संशय ज्ञान के द्वारा निवृत्त हो गए हैं, जो संपूर्ण प्राणियों के हित में रत है, और जिनका जीता हुआ मन निश्चल भाव से परमात्मा में स्थित है, वे ब्रह्मवेत्ता पुरुष शांत ब्रह्म को प्राप्त होते हैं। Now he has used again the same word here, labhante brahma nirvana mrashaya. That the same word he has used here, brahma nirvana means परमात्मा में लय हो जाना, अपने आप को खत्म कर देना, परमात्मा में लय हो जाना। उसके सारे सुख और संशय, सारे संशय उसके खत्म हो जाते हैं, एंड देन ही इज कंप्लीटली with oneself. He is able to conquer his own self, and by conquering, he get established in the Almighty. And what he does, whatever activity he does it for सर्वभूत हिते रता, दूसरे लोगों के अच्छाई के लिए काम करता है. He is only working here for the good of the other people, not thinking of himself, but all the time thinking of the good of the rest of the humanity or rest of the existence. So this is what he has said, that once you do all this process, what will be the outcome? You will still remain in the world, but your thinking will be that I should do good for the rest of the existence. I'm not using the word humanity particularly because humanity is only one species of life. Existence has millions of species of life, and therefore they work for the good of all species of life, not that they destroy other species, which we are doing presently because we are engaged in our own welfare of the humanity has become dominant, and the welfare of the other species of life has become absolutely irrelevant. In fact, as a result, we are destroying the other species of life. And what he says, Sarva Bhut Hites. Bhut is a word which has been used in Sanskrit for the entire manifest existence. The bhoot is not for human being. It's all the entire existence, including the mountains and the rivers and empty spaces and the oceans, all the entire nature which is manifest and all species of life which are manifest. For that the word bhoot has been used. You will see it many times like Panch Mahabhut. Why do we call Panch Mahabhut? Because those are the five manifest great powers which have been in existence here. So similarly, Sarvbhut Hite, everybody's, whatever exists in this existence, we think good of all of them. So this is once you have attained Brahma Nirman, then that is possible. Without that, it is not possible because uh, then you will be thinking of your own welfare and well-being, not about others. But once you have overcome that asakti with the world, then you have a vision which is very different, and that vision expands with the entire existence, and then you start thinking about the well-being of the entire existence. Then verse number 26, काम क्रोध से रहित जीते हुए चित्त वाले पर ब्रह्म परमात्मा का साक्षात किए हुए ज्ञानी पुरुषों के लिए सब और शांत पर ब्रह्म परमात्मा ही परिपूर्ण है. Now he is summarizing here these verses which have come in verse number 21st onwards. He is saying that काम क्रोध से, once you have detached yourself from the outside world, then naturally you will have no desires and no anger. So काम और क्रोध से आप बिल्कुल वो हो जाएंगे, you will be separated. You will not remain one with them, but you will विमुक्त हो जाएंगे उनसे बिल्कुल. That is the word he has used here. तो काम क्रोध से विमुक्त हो जाएंगे, और once you are vimukt from that, then you are one with Almighty. Then he says, पर ब्रह्म परमात्मा का साक्षात्कार किए हुए, that you are one with the Almighty, so you are all the time with him. यति नाम यत चेतसाम, यति नाम यत चेतसाम, that your chit is all the time, or your consciousness is all the time established with the Almighty. That is how you are settled, but that is possible only when आपका बाह्य स्पर्श जो है वो खत्म हो जाए, उसमें आसक्ति खत्म हो जाए बाह्य स्पर्श. Then you will get rid of calm and क्रोध, and then you will become one with the Almighty. And इस तरह का, the people who have acquired that kind of situation, again he has used the word here, abhito brahma nirvanam vartate viditatmananam. That the word brahma nirvanam has come again here. He says that once you have attained that specific position where you are one with the Almighty, then you have, peace everywhere. With yourself, you are at peace with yourself. Nothing can disturb that peace as long as you are not attached with the outside world again. So, बाह्य स्पर्श जो है, that should be left out, and then we go inward and we, link ourselves with the Almighty, with Brahma, with Paramatma, with what he has called Brahma Nirvanam, that we become one with the Brahma, or Yukt, we become yogi automatically, and then we will be at peace all the time. Then verse number 27 and 28, these are actually very profound verses. I don't think I can give you the full import of these verses, because these are the verses which are designed uh, for the people uh, who by following these practices can attain Brahma Nirvana. Now, बाहर के विषय भोगों को न चिंतन करता हुआ, बाहर के विषय भोगों को न चिंतन करता हुआ बाहर ही निकाल देना, दैट इज वन विच वी सो इन द बाह्य स्पर्श. और नेत्रों की दृष्टि को भ्रकुटी के बीच में स्थित करके और नासिका में विचरने वाले प्राण और अपान को सम करके, जिसकी इंद्रियां, मन और बुद्धि जीती हुई है, ऐसा मोक्ष परायण मुनि इच्छा, भय और क्रोध से रहित हो गया है, वह सदा मुक्त ही है. Now, these two verses are actually the most profound in this chapter, and they summarize the entire process. बाहर के विषयों को बाहर छोड़ दो, उनको अलग कर दो, संसार को अलग कर दो. You are not attached. Though the world exists, but you are not attached to the world. That is one part. Then he is saying, you might have seen Lord Shiva in this particular position. In some of the temples, you would find that posture. नेत्रों की दृष्टि को भ्रकुटी के बीच में, that this is our भ्रकुटी which we do. नेत्रों की दृष्टि को भ्रकुटी के बीच में स्थित करके. So when we do our meditation, you remember we go into a process at the second stage where we say that mind should be put at rest in Bhakti. So the mind should be put rest at that point, and नासिका में जो विचरने वाला प्राण है, that is the breathing process in and out, that should be absolutely saman. That is, there should be no fluctuation in that. It should be absolutely static. You should not even feel it. The feeling comes only when it becomes intense or less intense. And when it is normal, there is no feeling at all. So it should become some. And then Indriya and mind will be automatically under your control. Now that is a physical state which is linked with our mental state. So once we are able to do that, we are in our meditation, we try to attain that to some extent, but this is a very deep process. One has to learn it very properly, that how to put your drishti on the prakriti के बीच में यहाँ पे, and how you control your breathing process in and out. This is the entire what you call yogic system, which has been propounded in a variety of ways, including Patanjali. Patanjali has covered niyam, yam, you know, dharana, dhyan, samadhi. He has gone up to the 8 steps. So all those steps are covered in these two verses in a very short, concise way. So here he says that how you control your eyes, how you control your breathing, how you concentrate on your Prakriti, or the what we call it Agya Chakra, and then how you overcome your senses and mind and intellect, how you bring them under control. If you are able to do that, then all your desires, all your fears, and all your anger will disappear, and you will become liberated, mukt. eh? Sada mukt ev se. The person who has attained this kind of thing, he is all the time liberated. He doesn't need anything in this world. Whatever comes, he's fine. Doesn't come, he's fine. He has no desires left. He has no fears. He has no anger. And that state is the one which is called moksha. That state we can attain only through this process. First stage, बाह्य के विषयों को बाहर छोड़ो. That whatever pleasure you get due to association of outside world with the sense organs, you leave that outside. That doesn't have to enter in. That means you should not have asakti. You should not have attachment to that. That is first thing. Secondly, you concentrate on your agya chakra and you control your breathing process. It should become absolutely stable, and as a result of that, you will be able to establish control over your mind and your intellect and your sense organs. All three will come under your direct control, and then when all this happens, you will be free from desires, you will be free from fears, you will be free from anger, and then you are already liberated. So this is the ultimate lesson in total liberation from this universe, from this world, and then you become, one with the Almighty. So these two verses are very intense verses. They give you the complete summary of what we need to do to become totally liberated. And then the last verse is, मेरा भक्त मुझको सब यज्ञ और तपों का भोगने वाला, संपूर्ण लोकों के ईश्वरों का भी ईश्वर और संपूर्ण भूत प्राणियों का सुहृद, अर्थात स्वार्थ रहित, दयालु और प्रेमी, ऐसा तत्व से जानकर शांति को प्राप्त होता है. Now this is the verse which is, I would say, how you become one with the Almighty. That is the verse which is telling you that मेरा भक्त, यहाँ पे here he is talking about in his universal form. He is talking about that the word which he has used here, Sarva Lok Maheswaram, that he is the controller of the entire universe. So now he is talking in his Brahma Roop. He is not talking at Krishna here, he is talking as Brahma here. And he says that once you attained equanimity as given in the verse number 27, 28, then you completely surrender to me, and then I will take care of you. Then you don't have to worry. So that is I would say, this is the synthesis of Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. First, you acquire knowledge, and with the knowledge, you purify yourself, you detach yourself with the world, and then you do Karma Yoga, you remove yourself as a doer. You are not the doer, you are just performing yajna as assigned to you by the Almighty, and then you control your physical balance in the body, and then you surrender to myself. Now, this is the ultimate, uh, you know, attainment one can do in human life. This is possible only in human life, that then ultimately, after doing all this, you become bhakt of that, you know, supreme Lord, which controls everything, and you accept him as supreme. So we should accept this whole universe as supreme, because this universe is the manifestation or the manifest form of the Almighty. We should accept it as supreme, we surrender it to it, and then once we have done that, then obviously you will attain complete peace and freedom. So this verse ends with Krishna again revealing his true avatar, which he did in the previous chapter, in chapter number 4, where he started revealing his true self, that he is the manifest of the Almighty. And here he is ending is with the similar verse, where he again reveals that he is the Sarvalok Maheswaram, that he is the controller of the entire universe, and you should surrender to him. And once you do that, then you will Shantim Gachati, then you will have perpetual peace in your life. So I think we will end here now. This is the end of chapter 5. And this chapter is, as we mentioned, started with a question from Arjuna on the different format of what we call sannyas and karma yoga. And Krishna has very beautifully explained the two, and he has explained finally that how we can attain moksha, how we can attain total liberation by following a particular path. So thank you very much, and if you have any questions, I'll try to answer those, and then we can have meditation session, though the attendance is not that much today, but still we can have our session. Thank you.